Hey there, light beam workers. I am tuning in. Sorry for the dramatised pause. I thought I'd try a different angle on the camera. I've got a scent stick burning and my lamp is just tilted slightly, so it kind of gives it a really alluring kind of effect, mystical. And we are mystical beings to those who are not conversion centered and in more of a dualistic, oscillating vibrational resonance. To them we are very alluring, and we seem really evasive, enigmatic, because we are not of that vibration anymore. And some of us did come in here to propagate the divinely planes and them realms. Some of us came here to do that work. We are of service. The prophetic light work service, prophetic, and not to dabble and immerse and be subsumed by the densities of this realm. We have to experience it, because without the let me just tilt the camera a bit, man. This is bugging me a little bit. I've just had a smoother, so it's in the teeth a little bit. It's not disgusting, no. It's nature. Stop trying to modify yourself and preserve a certain status, because it only creates frictional resistance, and that resistance is correspondent with the ego, which is fire, and a very unstable element which induces uncomfortability and anxiety and all them things relative to that. Anyways, the topic of this video, the main topic, is about pious people of piety, and those who are practitioners, spiritual practitioners, who want to re-invoke, elicit a spiritual response until the habitualization just becomes the resonance permanently. But you have to reinitiate that. There's a reinitiation process. You don't have to be a practitioner of it all the way through your life. Some people do. It depends how big your ego is. It depends how inflated your ego is and how rapacious it is, but on what level of that it is currently at will determine how much practicing you have to do spiritually. But go on your intuition. Go on intuition. You don't have to incessantly do it all the time, because if you do, that implies that you're trying to consolidate a certain framework which is a derivative from the ego, so it's actually opposing the thing you're trying to attenuate through the ego. It's through the thing itself. So if you're always doing chanting and meditating and praying, and you're doing it that much incessantly, your day's crammed with it and condensed with that only, you forgot how to be. You forgot that, yes, that is the being, but the doing of everyday life is just the being. All that should do is kind of revive that state. I'm not saying stop doing it altogether. There's balance, okay? But if you're doing it to the extent where it's always there, and you're not able to just naturally recede from things, recede from it all, let go of it all, let go of the thing that you're trying to be, as it is the being of itself involuntarily. If you're not able to do that, then these spiritual practices are merely just an egoic act. There's a fine line between it, and sometimes people do it and they need it. They feel like they need to do that. I do it myself. I do chanting. I meditate. I chant. But some days I won't do it as much. That's okay. You become the chant. You become that. And people of pious people, who have been in a certain seclusive state, and in solitude, which just means your soul's in tune, solitude. They have been in a state where they have retracted the capacity of that vibrate. They've retracted it in, because they're no longer operating from ego. So now it's very distinguishable, and then they just become the being of that. It becomes the embodied of itself, the embodiment of itself, and then it just becomes like breathing. The breathing is the doing. And once you realise this, the ego is not as obstinate in its way, and it's more transcendable as a reflex. So in the moment you feel anxious, or you feel like you want to objectify a woman or anything like that, these things that are relative to that state of being erratic, because erraticness is not center, it's not the heart. It just becomes a reflex to transcend that and revert back into a state of just being. But while you're on the journey, you're initiating yourself through this. It may take years, it may take months, who knows. Me myself, I'm an old soul. I feel that. And however you want to conceptualize that, there'll be attributions associated with what that is and all this. It just means I've got a feeling that a familiarity with this realm and this certain plane density, this octave plane frequency. I've got a familiarity with it, and I kind of know what to do and what not. I can distinguish what's the ego and what's love quite quick. I pick things up real quick, within months. If somebody said to me, practice this Krishna way, I would pick it up in months. Islamic route, I'd pick it up in months. Because my soul and heart already knows it without the practicing. But that just reinvokes it. So being around people who are pious, and they do this often, their resonance, the sound vibrational resonance, has already vivified them on a cellular level to the point where they are of more of a prophetic, divinely essence, and the lower density planes don't have a hold of them as much. So when you're in the presence of them, it has an influence upon you. It imprints itself upon you. It oscillates, because we're all magnetic fields oscillating, interweaving through them oscillations within and of each other. So if you want to associate yourself with those that are mainly in the egoic domain and in that kind of chasm that's consumed their being, but they can be resuscitated. Everybody can be. The light, it needs a little spark, and it will inundate anything that is toxic and relative to the ego and that domain. But if if you're not selective and very particular, then you will be subject to that influence. And that denser vibrational resonance, the octave in which they are an occupant of, will permeate your being. permeation. Or let's just say you will become impermeable, because permeation is more of a light association, where it's penetrating and transmitting itself. But so don't become that. Be around the right people. Be around the right people. And the essence of that, it will illuminate you. You will become illumined. An illuminescent resonance, which is of the higher divine planes, where there is no dualism. It's just completely on one harmonious, beatific. It's incommunicable. I can't contextualize the divinity in which that realm is. And I don't want to get into the layers in which of where them realms are. I don't want to get into the layers of it. That could be another video, another topic. But it's either keep it simplified. It's either A or B. Which one do you want to feed? But sometimes you have to oscillate between both of them to know more of what you're not. You have to go into the egoic domain. As long as you don't become completely immersed in it, where that becomes your whole being. Sometimes it's good to go into it to extract from that. I've said this in another video. It's good to sometimes be a part of that, to extract from that place, to give you even more impetus into a more divinely direction. And then it gives you more of a sense of what you know you are not, and then you want to resensitize yourself to a higher vibratory resonance, because there's comfortability there, there's stability. It's not a precipitating, chaotic feeling that just flares out of control, and then all the things that are of that associated with that are anxiety and not feeling sufficient enough within your being to be able to blossom and be the blossomed of what it is. It is the blossoming. But sometimes when we are around certain situations and scenarios and we have not insulated the resonance of the heart within our being, it's not a fortress and a deterrent for bad energy, or not even that. If it's just not generally fortified and the energy coming towards you, just instead of it coming into your auric force field and then having a transmutatable effect on the energy that's trajecting itself upon you, if you're not able to do that, then you have to be more secluded from them kind of places if you're not ready for that. If you're still quite weak, but it's not weak in a sense that you're not enough. It's just that you don't want to identify with that kind of resonance, because it's very limited and finite, because it operates on illusion, and the illusion is there's no infinite. It's not an infinite bandwidth. It's not infinite, because it's operating on deprivation and scarcity. Like there's not enough of you, like you are not enough of yourself. It's like your being is lacking capacity, but the cup will be never filled with the ego. Never. It never will be. As soon as it thinks it's filled, that transient sensation of fulfillment is illusion related. So it is quickly emptied. As soon as you think it's been filled, that transient infinitesimal moment of fulfillment is a falsity. It's a falsity. And this is what the mind does. And then once you reflect on that, you feel deprived. And because deprivation, and like I've already said, all them things are dualism, and dualism finds no centre. It's this, it's that, it's this, it's this. The other multi-tangents that just create this friction that's like fire, and it burns you and it scars you. There's only so much you can take, but the spiritual path is the healing of the scars of the ego, to realise that you was never that. So be around the right people and everything will just flow. All things will flow. There will be fluidity, because their energy will impress itself upon you, and they will be a great divinely resonance with the heart, and then it will establish a tangent wavelength frequency which will have an augmentation effect on the divine that's implicit within your being, which is this structure and this realm. It's an effect of it. The ego is a subordinate effect of it. And once you realise that, the essence of your soul will no longer be subdued, and it will be revivified. And you realise, oh, that's the wagon I want to be on. So then you are the controller of the chariot. You are on it. This body, which they call in Islam the donkey, you'll no longer be subject to that need. You be the one riding the thing as the soul on the seat of your throne. There can only be one on the throne, either your ego or your soul. No two things can occupy this thing, this realm. So you have to make that decision for yourself, but it's a lot of trials, a lot of trial runs you'll have to experience, but it will keep fortifying you more and more. And if you act upon a form of stimulus, you will no longer induce and self-occlude the flow of your spirit by inducing guilt, because guilt's of a lower vibration, and that's instilled in us. The thing that this agenda creates then will have a mechanism to proliferate and ricochet that feeling even more, when it could have just stopped there, learn from it, move on. Because there is no time. This density, the illusion of lineage, is only in this density, in this plane. I feel like that's enough. I feel like that's enough for now. By the way, there's not been any orbs drifting past this camera. I have a sense stick on. So if you thought you saw something and you rationalised it, you was right, because it was a sense stick. Anyway guys, I'm out. I feel like I'm drifting in and out of realms. I'm not quite fully present, but peace out guys, and love.